Hey guys, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole, and we're breaking down each SEC football game in the bowl season from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. That features the Florida Gators and the UCF Knights. This game's going to be played on Thursday, December 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida, and it's going to be televised on ESPN. From a betting perspective, this game opened with the Gators as a 6.5-point favorite. That line's held firm as we're recording in this video. The over-under for this game opened at 56.5, and it's down to 55.5 as we make this video for you. And I'm going to bring in our betting analyst, Christopher Smith. Christopher, it's bowl season in the SEC, and we've got a game that normally we'd be all fired up to see. Florida and UCF, a little Sunshine State showdown.
Yeah, normally it's right. Things are a little bit different, as we'll talk about as we get into the details of this game. But I think we were joking before we started recording that you can just skip to the end and say, hey, just stay away. Don't bet any money on this game. Or if you do, flip a coin and then bet $5 max and just look at it as entertainment value. So hopefully you don't get too in over your head in the amount of money you're betting on this game, because it'll be probably wildly unpredictable. But Nick, why don't you start us out by looking at the weather, the key injuries, and Nick's news and notes?
Sure. So let's start with the weather in Tampa. We're a few days out from kickoff, just heads up, so a little bit earlier than normal. So you're definitely going to want to check the actual forecast on the day of the game to make sure this lines up with what you're seeing in this video. But we're looking at temperatures in the 60s. It should be clear based on the forecast, and the winds should be manageable, about 5 miles per hour. On the injury side of things, we've got a pretty lengthy list of, I would throw on top of injuries, we've got opt-outs, transfers, going into the pros, all kinds of things, right? So, but we'll run down some names that you need to be aware of. And again, I would check these as you approach kickoff to make sure that in addition to the names we mentioned, there may not be more. On the Florida side, defensive lineman Zachary Carter opted out of this bowl game. Cornerback Kyer Elam is expected to play, but that one's worth monitoring up until kickoff to see if he changes his mind. And there are 6 players for the Gators who have entered the transfer portal since the end of the regular season. That includes wide receiver Jacob Copeland and leading tackler linebacker Mohamed Diabate. Quarterback Emory Jones is also reportedly going to enter the transfer portal after the bowl game. So he should be playing, but will be leaving the Gators shortly after that. And then the other quarterback in the equation, Anthony Richardson, is out for this bowl game due to an injury. On the UCF side of things, quarterback Dylan Gabriel is transferring to UCLA, but he was already out for the rest of the season with an injury, so that wasn't a guy we're looking at anyway. And Northwestern transfer running back Isaiah Bowser could return for this bowl game. He's been out since early November, so that's another one to watch going into this one. News and notes side of things, Christopher. I got to start on the UCF side and say, hey, the Gus bus is returning to the SEC scene, right? After 8 years at Auburn and a breakup at the end of the 2020 season, Gus is back in our purview for bowl season. This is his first year at UCF. He's finished with an 8-4 regular season, obviously replacing now Tennessee coach Josh Heupel down there in Orlando. It was pretty respectable considering he lost Dylan Gabriel early in the season to an injury against Louisville. That sort of hampered what expectations could be when you lose your starting quarterback that early in the season. So 8-4, his out of conference schedule, just to put some reference on that 8-4, it was kind of light on Power 5 opponents. He had a 42-35 loss to Louisville in week 3, but he did beat Boise State in week 1. It was a pretty respectable group of 5 program, and finished the regular season on an upswing, winning 5 of his last 6 games there with the Knights. Gus never missed the postseason at Auburn, and his bowl streak continues here at UCF. And just in case you're wondering, during his time at Auburn, for as long as he was there, he only played Florida once, and the head-to-head was in 2019, and the Gators beat Auburn 24-13. Obviously, a bunch of different characters involved here in a new school for Gus. Not much weight I would put on that. But on the Florida side of things, it's about the want to in bowl season, and accurately measuring Florida's want to in this game is likely the key to betting it if you're going to bet it. You likely know the Gators story by now, right? Dan Mullen was fired towards the end of the regular season. The Gators showed up and beat Florida State the next week anyway, and that win actually is what propelled them into the bowl game in the first place. That pushed them to the 6-6 record. Now outgoing interim coach Greg Knox gets one more shot at showing what he's got against an in-state school before handing the keys over to new Gators coach Billy Napier permanently. And Greg Knox, not only did he beat Florida State, but he also, the last time he was an interim coach at Mississippi State, won his bowl game against Lamar Jackson in the Louisville. So he's 2-0 as an interim head coach, and I don't know that he's looking to do anything other than extend it to being 3-0. But there are opt-outs. We mentioned some of those earlier, transfer portal decisions, injuries just in general that the Gators have gone through this season, and just the question of how many Gators really want to be at the Gasparilla Bowl 2 days before Christmas, right? That's not exactly what they signed up for when they decided to commit to the orange and blue. So you got to question the motivating factors here. But I would say on the flip side of that is there's still the first impressions to make on new coach Billy Napier. This is their first time to sort of know who he is and show him something on film. And there's probably a measure of pride in beating a boisterous group of five school like UCF, who likes to claim national championships they didn't actually win, and is full of high school players that a lot of these kids played against. A lot of in-state recruits go to Florida and go to UCF, and there's some intermingling here, and there's some pride involved. So even if Florida's not at their best, and even if Florida doesn't have a ton to play for, that UCF's going to be out to knock them off for clout. And I think Florida maybe has a reason to show up for pride, if nothing else. Christopher, you kind of alluded to it earlier, not wild about betting this one, but when we get into the analytics, into the underlying numbers, what do we need to look for if you are going to bet on this one?
Anytime that you're talking about so many factors that are unknown, I think my tendency is to go back and look at the baseline. And one of those publicly available baselines is ESPN's SP Plus. That's Bill Connolly's sort of all-encompassing system that takes into account, things that happen on a per play basis, a per down basis, and a per game basis. It doesn't look at the final score, or the results. It looks more at, what's happening on a down-to-down basis, and what can you glean from that makes it predictable for the future. So SP Plus has this game as a 9-point edge for Florida. Now, SP Plus is a computer model, and it can't see injuries, opt-outs, coaching changes, anything like that. So obviously the line is smaller than 9 here. So it's up to you to determine whether all of the changes that are happening and the motivation and all of that is worth 2.5 points toward UCF's side. And again, remember that UCF is playing with freshman Mikey Keene at quarterback instead of Dylan Gabriel. That's a huge difference there. And we also don't know if Northwestern transfer running back Isaiah Bowser will play for UCF, or if his injury will keep him out of this game. So there are questions on the UCF side as well, questions about whether they'll be excited about going down the street 2 days before Christmas as well. So Florida definitely lost a lot of players, but the other factor there is they seem to quit on this season a long time ago. And so I'm not sure that if the kind of motivational factors may already be baked in on their side, because we've seen that in the market long ago. Maybe they'll care that it's UCF. Maybe they'll care that it's Gus Malzahn. Maybe they'll care for their interim head coach. So again, like we've repeated now, who knows who's going to play hard. But the last thing that I'll look at from a more of a raw numbers standpoint is Florida's run defense is 78th in EPA per snap compared to 19th against the pass. So they have been much, much better on a down-to-down basis against the pass than they have been against the run. And UCF is 25th running the ball and 86th passing the ball. Mentioned that they have the true freshman quarterback as well. So if Bowser is healthy, especially against Florida's defense, the way to attack them is to run the ball, and run the ball again. And on the other side, Emory Jones has been pretty steady, not explosive. He has thrown 13 picks, but I would guess that Florida will probably also run some more without their top wide receiver in a passing offense that wasn't particularly affected this season anyway. So I do think that we probably will see both teams lean heavily on the run. which normally in bowl season you lean toward overs because offenses usually get the better of defenses in bowl season. But this may be a game, if you are going to play anything, that you may think about the fact that both teams are going to be running the ball a lot. But Nick, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a holiday gift and then let us know what you're betting on in this game, if anything.
Yeah, sure. So since bowl season's in full swing, our buddies over at Action 24/7 Sportsbook are celebrating with a special deal for new customers. For a limited time only, you can get your deposit matched 100% up to $800. Sign up today and make your first deposit using code SOUTH14, that's SOUTH14, and Action will double your money up to $800. Download the app or visit action247.com to get things started. Action 24/7 is by Tennesseans for Tennesseans, and you've got action. And Christopher, my picks for this game are solely for the purposes of enjoying a picks contest with you and our viewers and see who can do best, because I'm not putting my real money on this game. I just can't bring myself to do it. Too many unknowns. But for the purposes of my pick here, I'm going to go with Florida -6.5. I'm going to bet on the talent here. Just say overall depth-wise, even with the players that are missing, probably a little bit better at Florida, a little bit to prove to Coach Napier as he's going to be reviewing the film. And then also I feel like they showed up and played for Greg Knox against Florida State, had a little bit of pride there and won that rivalry game. I don't see why they wouldn't do the same against UCF, because the last thing that they want to hear for the next 9 months is UCF and their fans chirping about how they beat the Big Bad Gators in the bowl game. And then I'm going to go a little bit against you just for the sake of saying I'm not sure that either of these defenses is going to be particularly motivated to grind things out. I'm going to take it over 55.5 in this one. Plus, it's much more fun to bet the over when you're betting pretend money. What do you think?
It is, you're right, but I'm going to go with the under to go against you here, under 55.5. Also because I'm not putting any money on this game of mine either, but if I had to pick any bet for this game and you told me you got to bet only on this game, it would probably be on the under, just because I think the game script is going to lend itself to running the ball a lot on both sides. And I'll take UCF +6.5 just because Florida is going to be missing most of its best players in this game. And Gus Malzahn probably would love to get a win over an SEC school, but I really have no idea. It's a coin flip for me on the side, which, if you got a 50% likelihood of winning your bet, that's minus ED play in the long run, because you need to win 52.4% of the time to turn a profit. So there's no way I'm going to be involved in this scheme, but hopefully you enjoy it. And if you do bet, limit your bet size and just have some fun with it. For Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for the 14, and we'll see you as we preview the rest of the SEC Bowl games later on.